Yeah. Okay. So I mean, everyone's got their opinions on this out there. There's tons of takes on Twitter, and honestly, there's so many funny fucking tweets that have come out of this. I'd just like to at least recognize that because that's what I live for, really. Okay, so basically what happens is NiP tried to play a match against Anonymo, this Polish team, with snacks on it. They played a best of 3, and Anonymo ended up beating NiP in a close match. And then a couple players go on Twitter and they talk about that there was 30-40% packet loss during the match, all 3 maps, and are now requesting that the match is replayed. And that's obviously an insane precedent to set to replay a match. And there's a number of issues with that. But to talk about the actual issue, who's at fault, and first of all, people are saying that there's no way that this could have been 30-40% packet loss. It was confirmed, and I also know from my own games, for whatever reason on FACEIT, I've been crying about 30-40% packet loss, so I know that this is possible from my own experience. You guys seen on my stream when I've been playing some of these FACEIT servers, I've been at 30-40% packet loss. So, like I said yesterday, I believe them already when they said that this was the case, that they were getting this. Now the issue is at what it seemed like before was that if they're getting 30-40% packet loss, but they didn't have another ISP to try to use to see if they would get better routing or if they would solve this loss issue. So that there is no way around it. They tried to change servers. Anonymo didn't agree to play on the farther servers where they would have higher ping, and they're looking out for themselves, which is totally normal and fine. That they also want to make sure they have the good conditions to play. But they didn't agree to play on those farther servers. Their routing was bad through the other ones. They were forced to play on it because NiP didn't have a way to fix their issue. And originally, it was thought to be their issue. So they were forced to play out. Then they play out, and what happened is they find out that that FACEIT are at fault because they found out that the servers were activating some kind of DDoS protection when NiP were all playing at the same time, which was causing the loss, but there was no way to figure that out at the time, and other teams in other parts of the world were playing with 5 altogether, I think including Anonymo, and didn't have this issue, so it wasn't clear that this is why. And of course, this is why the match is now being offered or argued to be replayed, because basically FACEIT made a mistake. Even if it was hard to figure out, FACEIT made a mistake, and now this is why we're at this point. So, yeah, in my opinion, FACEIT fucked up. It's hard to. Of course, it's never going to be an easy decision to get to where they've got to. It's the real issue though is that this is not Anonymo's fault. Okay, and also the match has already been played, which is a giant can of worms, because Anonymo played this full series and NiP played the full series. They finished the series. So, in my opinion, this is really the worst part. If they had never played the series, then whatever resolution comes about, when whether or not that whatever that resolution would be 10 times better than them having to potentially replay the match in its entirety, because you come in with a certain amount of preparation to play the same matches. And now if we replay the match, we are going to have a situation where if NiP win the match, holy shit. And if Anonymo win the match, well, NiP are going to, permanently lose fans for the rest of their careers, pretty much. So, right, in my opinion, this is a horrible situation made worse by replaying the match, because it's not Anonymo's fault. And I do have some sympathy though for FACEIT to not be, to not have been able to figure out this issue because NIP didn't have a second ISP or any other way to help them figure out that it was there, that they could even pinpoint what the issue was because they didn't know either. But ultimately it's just a very shitty, very, very shitty situation. And, I personally don't agree with the match being replayed, but I do understand that it's not a very simple situation. But yeah, it's not Anonymo's fault, and they shouldn't. They're having to play. They have to play again, and that's tough. So, yeah, having to play again is not a very. It's not a very comfortable position to be in. Did I cover everything? Weird that Flashpoint didn't consult the CSPPA or anything. Well, I mean, how the fuck are we? That part I don't really get. Like Chris J talked about the CSPPA. It's like, but like the CSPPA, they just appear sometimes to help with some stuff. Sometimes they don't help at all. How are we supposed to know they'd even be reliable? Like CSPPA, like who megalol, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, they would be the perfect organization if they like existed consistently throughout all of the issues in CS history, but like they just sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. Who fucking megalol, you know what I mean? Like, yes. Anyways, fuck that. Yeah. As for the Flashpoint FACEIT thing, I think FACEIT fucked up. I mean, it's FACEIT admins that fucked up, and like, if they, in other situations, it's basically the FACEIT admins and the technical side of thing. Flashpoint is just the storefront with the set and us dumbass casters and the talent and stuff like that to put on a show, but this was a technical issue on the back end where the admins at FACEIT messed up. So it's, yeah. I think it's important to say that FACEIT are at fault. Why didn't Flashpoint reschedule the match in the first place? Because I think at first it wasn't clear who was exactly at fault, and rescheduling a match is insanely... This is obviously worse, but rescheduling a match is all... I mean... that's another day of turning the lights on or extending the schedule or adding changing the bracket. I mean, this is a big fucking deal to reschedule a match in a tournament. It's not like a small deal. So that would be a very, very big deal at the time. Of course, we're in a much more difficult position now, but yeah, I don't think that just rescheduling was like a very obvious or easy situation. But yeah, it's so yeah. Do you think the rematch will end up happening? I have no idea, and I don't want to speak out of turn on this, but I have no idea what will actually happen from now on. To me, this just feels like at the very least, it's a PR fuck up because, it was a bad situation, but it was a bad situation that almost passed, and now it's just a horrible situation. So it almost feels like, ethically, it's really hard to say, because like, it wasn't an easy decision. It was very hard to see what was going on at the time. There were multiple layers of the problem, but now it's like it just makes it worse. And obviously, the precedent part in terms of CS:GO, it's not a fun thing to have to think about. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but I think it is important to say that like people want, okay, guys, when we ask for people's opinions on issues, guys, remember, I dropped out of university, okay? Like, I studied philosophy. I didn't study fucking, you know what I mean? Let me show you something. Okay, everyone needs to watch this. All right, here. Watch this with me.
Yeah, man, they would. But I'm like, for real, why you care so much what the Dixie chicks say? It's not like they political scientists and nothing. They just bitches that can sing good. You know what I mean? Stop worshiping celebrities so much. Just don't listen, pay attention.
Okay. That's just to say, listen, it's obviously not completely out of our depth to talk about this kind of stuff, but I would just like to say that I don't have power to make decisions in this kind of situation. I am just talent at the end of the day. I think it makes sense to ask us what we think because we're there on the ground and we probably have some more information. That's fair. But let's try to measure our expectations a little bit for what we want in terms of a good answer from people who are talent or whatever that you're reaching out to on Twitter, or like whatever, because we're, I show up to make the broadcast entertaining, and then, hopefully hopefully I can have some input that affects the outcome of decision. This is not something I did. I can only comment on it. I really don't even know what happened between the admins and the NIP at the time and stuff like that. So I think it's just important to have, measure expectations. That's all. But yeah, basically, I agree that I think that, it's pretty clear the FACEIT admins, they messed up pretty bad. And, how it's resolved. I mean, I wouldn't replay the match personally. That's my look, but I also don't get to control that. And I also am not saying that my word is gospel here. I can just say that's my opinion because people are asking me, for my opinion. So I'm not afraid to give my opinion. That's just my opinion. Yeah.